nog er, we will tell you what.
For one of us, you're five, no shit. Let's just start shit. Look, next to us, then let's know.
We will know what you're so what's this? Like,
Yeah, but I'm fine there and shell a little vinegar. Let's just start shit. Look, next to us, then let's know.
On the first day of 1949, launched a new Cold War between the three powers, the Supreme Council of the United People's Republics of Usonia officially voted to create the Usonia National Space Administration, UNSA, and set fairly modest goals for sounding rocket launches. Later the same day, the Estonian Parliament of the Federal Union of Crenia responded with the official order to merge multiple aeronautical research institutes to form the Estonian Atmospheric Space Agency, KASA. By the second, the Emperor of the Pan-Slavic Empire, Alexius II, pressured the Imperial Parliament to create their agency, the Imperial Ministry for Space, decision promptly ignored by all Imperial subjects besides Slanskov. On the second, with Usonia's first launch of a sounding rocket, the space race truly began. During the Second Great War, the United People's Republics of Usonia found great success in its development of the Hornet missile. Cheap to produce, easy to deploy, and effective again ordnance to Imperial Germany. With war now hopefully limited, the large reserve of Hornets is free for use by enterprising aerospace research organizations. Quickly painted in a far more visible color scheme and fitted with a parachute instead of a warhead, the small sounding rocket, labeled Hornet 1, is prepared for launch. The first flight proceeds as expected, marking a successful start to the space age. Emboldened by a successful flight, Usonian engineers work quickly to get another flight. Just 39 minutes later, another solid motor is prepared, and the vehicle is reflown. As the record keepers hadn't expected the vehicle to be reflown, they arbitrarily decided to record the launch as Hornet 1B. Already, we're falling behind on objectives. Falling behind implies competition. No one else started the program yet. When there's actual competition, I'm sure bureaucrats in New Worcester will be more than willing to give us funding. Well, they're not giving us funding now, and already everyone has Hornet missiles. I bet by tomorrow morning these Frenians will outpace us. And soon enough, they're gonna reach orbit and start spying on us. Face it, falling behind now means falling behind then. We acknowledge that the Usonians have, as of midnight, released comprehensive reports of their sounding rocket program. It is already clear the UNSA is committing more resources to rocket development than is currently available in our budget. However, we believe the Emerald program will likely match pace with Usonia within the coming weeks. Following their success with Emerald 1, KASA then attempted to kickstart its X-Plane program. This was a poor decision. The program would immediately be put on hiatus for the foreseeable future. Less than an hour had passed since Emerald had left the pad, and already a third competitor entered. The Pan-Slavic Empire rolled out their own version of the Hornet, titled the R1, which their chief engineers adamantly deny has any similarities to the Usonia and Estonian vehicles. In support of this, the R1 became the first multi-stage rocket to be launched, stacking multiple classes of Hornet boosters. Returning to Usonia, the mix of fear and optimism is present throughout USA. On one hand, adversaries had surpassed Usonian technology. On the other hand, growing public outrage at the previous fact will likely increase willingness of the central government to be part of its resources. A new rocket is ready, sporting a two-stage design, and due to record keeper's laziness, it is somehow referred to both as Hornet 2 and Hornet 3 by the government-controlled press. Usonia continues to face both falling income and, despite government efforts, bad PR. Up at the Tchaikovsky Cosmodrome, after laughing at Usonia's consecutive failures, Pan-Slavic engineers once again preparing an R1. As the craft far exceeded its previous expectations, and major modifications are made. At the Estonian Space Center, the only launch site to not have seen a multi-stage launch yet, another Emerald is set on the pad early in the morning, and lifts off to secure some more valuable funding, and potentially some science data as well. Before the day concludes, Tchaikovsky Cosmodrome remains abuzz with activity, and yet another R1 is prepared. As of now, Usonia has had only one successful sounding rocket launch. This fact, along with Usonian engineers, can now try their hardest to make Hornet 3 successful. Once again, T stages, the vehicle lifts off late in the day, desperately trying to meet deadlines. For multiple seconds, telemetry is lost. Usonia ground control frantically tries to recontact the vehicle to send the order for parachute deployment. The thought races through the minds of mission controllers. Has the vehicle been lost? After a few tense seconds, however, contact is regained. The mission is a complete success. With this victory, USA now hopes to regain lost ground and remain competitive with the other agencies. Following the boost of confidence brought by successful flights yesterday, today sees 3 more successful launches. At 3:31 UTC, R1-4 roars off the pad in the far north, completing yet another contract for a Pan-Slavic Empire. At 6:03, closer to the equator, Emerald 3 launches with quite a snake backdrop. It becomes Renia's first multi-stage rocket. minutes later at 6:19, Hornet 4 suffers an unfortunately eventful launch, but accomplishes mission objectives. During the flight, a strange visual effect is observed on the vehicle, which many hypothesize is related to odd aerodynamic effects observed in experimental aircraft, often referred to as FAR debug. Yet again, 3 rockets sent out towards their launch pads. A Tu-38 R1-5 launches, achieves a record-breaking 80 kilometers, easily meeting its contract requirements, and is successfully recovered. At 5:04, Emerald 4 flies a less monumental but still successful flight. With the Pan-Slavic Empire seeming to pull ahead in the race, the world awaited further action from Usonia, and at 5:38, Hornet 5 launched. It failed to reach desired altitude. With Usonia's failure streak seemingly resumed, international observers note, for now at least, that the Pan-Slavic Empire is ahead in aerospace technology. The Pan-Slavic Empire, hoping to maintain its lead, launches yet another sounding rocket. However, as the vehicle descends, a problem occurs which will plague Imperial Slavic rockets for the next several flights. The data recorder, along with the rest of the payload, mysteriously gets damaged beyond recovery upon landing. Engineers are perplexed by this, and the failure to return data puts the sounding rocket program in jeopardy. Fearing the effects of imperialist victory in space, Estonian engineers cobbled together a new launch vehicle. Like every rocket flown thus far, its Hornet-derived parts make it nearly indistinguishable from foreign designs. In order to maximize efficiency, the fin area of the vehicle was reduced as much as possible, hopefully having minimal effects on stability. The goal was to reach space. The launch vehicle Emerald Mark III has clear stability issues that must be resolved prior to Flight 6. The most obvious cause is a high center of pressure during the first stage burn. We recommend increasing the fin area. We acknowledge that this will likely decrease potential performance below that of the original proposal. Even with the limited data available on foreign launches, many arrived at Goddard Space Center are skeptical, believing the data simply be cursed for sounding rockets, especially with the trend and failure rate of Usonian rockets. Nonetheless, Hornet 6 is prepared for flight. And yet again, upon landing, all data is lost, once again failing to satisfy the flight requirements. The cause of structural failure remains unknown, and the Empire's lead in the space race slips away. After conducting extensive calculations, CASA has made minor tweaks to the Emerald Mark III, hopefully sufficient to maintain stability. If the rocket flies as expected, it could win a major victory for Usonia. It could reach space. As the telemetry reports back an altitude over the 91-kilometer Kármán line, mission control erupts and cheers. Well, it's not the first time in history a Kerbal-made object reached space, being beaten by Germanic V2 test. This marks a major Australian advance in the space race. However, despite the excitement within the scientific community, with a major research centre being renamed in honour of the Emerald program, the general public was unenthusiastic. Across Kármán, it was evident the true milestone of the early space age, which will be remembered for centuries, will be the first satellite. Despite losing a major objective, the USI pushed on with its sounding rocket program, and suffered another failure. Running low on funds and with the Communist Party unlikely to provide more, the USI administrators were pushed to fund an alternate means of making ends meet. The USI realized it could perform scientific research for other government entities, and then use the influence of those entities to bargain for more resources. And so, Usonian engineers got to work on a far different means of ascent, which would take surprisingly long to develop. With their first place position short-lived, the Pan-Slavic Empire tried to regain some ground with a space shot of their own. Also, hopefully, they determined the structural failures, which caused them to lose out on major funding. Espionage efforts have revealed that delayed ignition could be ideal for max altitude. Due to the high altitude of the flight, the craft descends quicker than expected. This causes major damage, and once again, all data is lost. This prompts a major reassessment of the R1 class of vehicles. Following their previous success, NASA confidently believes it can repeat this success. They are mistaken. Despite the extensive analysis conducted, the vehicle was shown only metastable in flight. Small adjustments had to be made for the next flight. Just 9 days into the space age, an interesting event occurred. Only one launch occurred on this day. The Usonians were busy with a surprisingly complicated multi-purpose project. The Imperial Slavs were questioning the use of paper products in aerospace, and Slack left just East Runnings to launch. Thundering first up and then tumbling, Pod 8 showed an exaggeration of 7 and 5. Clearly, more work had to be done. At this point, many questioned the East Running decision to continue with the Emerald Mark V. However, the sole success prompted a sunk cost fallacy among the cast administrators. Yet again, Emerald failed to reach altitude and shot out across the ocean instead. Rather ambitiously, the Pan-Slavic Empire set out to launch 2 rockets, with expected to reach space within 1 hour. Starting at 5:15, R1-9 lifted off, and through carefully adjusted parachute settings, finally survived landing. In separation of this, the Artemis Satanskov, the largest constituent of the Empire, awarded the program additional funding. In actuality, a crack and sent a piece of debris. I actually caused road first to trigger, and I didn't want to deal with removing the funds, and also it's a nice plot device. Touching down on a grassy plain in Usonia, the craft was soon to be overshadowed by the next rocket. At 5:56, R1-10 launched as the first 3-stage rocket. In possibly upgrades to Tchaikovsky Cosmodrome, the rocket was able to reach an altitude exceeding 320 kilometers, setting a new world record. Upon re-entry, the craft sustained major G-forces, damaging the payload fairing. However, the telemetry data was secured, and a major victory for the Empire was had. The next day once again only saw one launch. The Slavs again sent a 3-stage R1 over 320 kilometers, intending to collect valuable data on the conditions high above Kármán. However, the parachute deployed incorrectly and ripped the vehicle apart. Once again, the Pan-Slavic Empire found itself unable to recover rockets. After 2 days of redesigning, the Emerald returned to flight. Starting with Emerald 10 at 6:02, improved fin designs allowed the rocket to remain stable in flight. All the performance losses are incurred at decreased max altitude. Following a successful flight, Emerald 11 launches just 39 minutes later. Similar to 3-stage R1, another booster is added, allowing the craft to once again reach space. Also similarly, this required upgrades to the ground capabilities at the Estonian spaceport. This craft survives the flight, providing new capabilities for CASA. After 5 days of development, a surprisingly underwhelming vehicle was unveiled by USI. Despite the administrator's initial remark, "How are we winning this race if it takes 5 days to design a literal balloon?" and the expression of any potential PR gain due to possible military use of the technology, the Aerosonde 1 is successfully deployed. Reaching 9.4 kilometers after 30 minutes, the craft can successfully test new parachute technologies, as well as gather data on the middle atmosphere. After recovery, the craft can now be deployed for future uses. However, despite the success, this only reduces Communist Party support for a space program, which is increasingly falling behind its competitors. By stark contrast, the Emerald program only grows more popular in Usonia, providing valuable data to various universities, and a cost that keeps CASA healthy. However, on 1949-14 at 024 UTC, Emerald 12 launched, and after a successful flight, suffered a parachute failure and was lost. Emerald 13, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your political alignment, was in a similar manner to on the 15th. Following reassessments of parachute deployment, Emerald 14 is able to succeed on the 16th, launching at TU41. During this time, Usonia and the Pan-Slavic Empire work on developing new, ambitious launch vehicles to hopefully undo Srania's lead. Continuing with their strange numbering scheme, the Pan-Slavic Empire deploys a new sounding rocket, the R2. Using the Germanic V2 rocket as a first stage, in theory the vehicle should reach a far higher altitude. Engine fail was mere seconds into flight, having achieved an altitude of only a few meters. Extensive testing is conducted on other V2 engines to try and determine the cause. On the other side of Kármán, a similar mistake is made. Using their own derivative of the V2 called Bumper, Usonia attempts a similar design to the R2. Reaching just 822 meters above sea level, the rocket technically beats the Slavic attempts. However, the engine spectacularly fails. Attempting a salvage launch, the Hornet upper stage is ignited. Whilst successfully recovered, little data is gained from the flight, and Usonia is unable to complete the needed objectives. Ending the day with success, CASA launches a new variant of the Emerald, which, whilst flying shore space, meets contract requirements. Whilst Usonia and the Pan-Slavic Empire attempted to correct their V2-derived vehicles, CASA launched yet another Emerald, carrying more advanced scientific equipment. However, the added mass would cause the frame to overstress, breaking apart the vehicle. In another attempt to launch the R2, a similar level of failure is observed. The decision is made to re-evaluate the R2 program. Attempting to complete Emerald 16's mission, Emerald 17 meets a similar failure. Clearly, redesigns are needed for more advanced scientific payloads. Ending off the first 20 days of the space age, Usonia makes a final bid to try and finally reach space, days later than the rival agencies. The attempt fails spectacularly. We've yet to reach space whilst destroying themselves and reliable rockets. We're gonna need to do something drastic, such as figure it out. At the end of these 20 days, the three agencies currently possess these main resources, these technologies, and have upgraded the following facilities. With the major leagues made in just 20 days, the world patiently awaits the next milestone. Thank you for watching. This is my first time trying to do some more serious storytelling. If you want more content like this, please like, subscribe, and or comment on this video. If you have suggestions, please leave them in the comments. Goodbye.